I'm sitting down answering some of my patrons' questions on Patreon, and I'm not going to give anyone's name because I'm not telling them that I'm doing this, but nonetheless, I think there's some valuable information here for a lot of you who have new dogs or existing dogs or whatever. But I was just asked about potty training, and when you move, are you likely to have a relapse? And of course, the answer to that is yes. Any change in a dog's environment is likely to cause them to act uncharacteristically. But if you're having issues with potty training at all, always have your dog on leash. An unpotty trained dog has no business having off-leash access to the house. The habit just gets more and more and more out of hand. So you have to take a big step back on potty training if you're having issues with it. I just finished replying to another patron who has a couple of kids, right? And has a really overzealous puppy who's very excited about, interacting with anything and everything, especially the kids, and the patron was asking for advice on how to resolve this. So remember, we have two major categories that we need to consider when trying to train dogs. First, we have to manage them, and secondly, we have to come up with a training component. So in this case, the top mistake being made, which is made by the majority of new puppy parents, is not having the dog on leash. Too much freedom too early. So especially if you have young kids and you've got a puppy biting dog, then it's very common for a playful dog to want to go up and play with the kids. They make high-pitched sounds, to jump on them, claw at them, bite at them, because puppies don't know not to do any of this stuff yet. So by having a dog on leash and first regaining control of the environment by making that behavior impossible, then you can at least stop the habit from continuing to be reinforced. Next, it takes months of training, building communication, working on sit, stay, look at me, and really rehearsing situations and practicing stay around the children until the dog starts to understand. By putting in a lot of training, you can really start to get this under control within a few weeks, but it does take months of follow through for long-term results. But it takes a year to have a well-trained dog that listens to you in a variety of settings. Really good question though. I know a lot of people struggle with that. I just took another great question from a brand new patron who's recently gotten a puppy, and she's struggling with her dog because when she takes her puppy outside, her puppy gets really nervous and she just is very uncomfortable and wants to come inside immediately. And that's a somewhat common problem. But it's kind of natural. I mean, the outside can be a really overwhelming place to many dogs depending on their personality type. So bottom line, you've got to address it in two areas. You want to desensitize your dog to the new environment by giving them lots of exposure to the environment. So basically picking up your dog, going outside, spending 20 minutes at a time out there where possible. I told her between 10 minutes and an hour at a time, whatever you can work in as often as you can. And not just the backyard either, going in public very often. But when you're in those areas, you should always bring a really high value currency. In this case, it's probably going to be food, as nervous dogs don't typically like to play in environments that make them uncomfortable. So small bits of real chicken, just giving them a piece every 30 seconds or so, or every 10 seconds at first, during the first few minutes out there might be a good idea. Again, that's why we keep treats itty bitty. I mean, the size of a grain of rice. Typically puppies will outgrow this and they come to adjust to the environment and they're not so scared of it anymore. So it was a good question though. I just received a new question from another new patron about his dog not listening really well outside, and he was seeking advice on that. Also, his dog tends to get a little bit anxious when he leaves and he's wondering what to go through there. So the best way to get your dog to listen to you outside is to train them outside extremely often in order to really get them used to it. It's normal for us to underestimate the amount of time it takes for a dog to adjust outside, especially when you consider the senses that dogs have and their ability to hear and of course smell. And all of the different scents out there make it really difficult for a dog to focus if they're not extremely used to being outside and taking direction from you outside. So behaviors don't transition well from in the house to outside. That's why there's that whole different layer of training you have to put into play. And of course with separation anxiety, I've got a great video that you guys can go check out on separation anxiety, but one of the best ways to get the most bang for your buck is to prioritize fetch training with your dog, and it can take anywhere between 3 weeks and several months to teach a reliable game of fetch. Now remember, most people don't really fully get what I mean by fetch. Fetch is where your dog chases a toy, picks up the toy, returns to you in a straight line, immediately drops the toy or lets go upon your request, and eagerly awaits the next throw. So if your dog is running around, not bringing the toy back, isn't letting go reliably, your dog does not yet know a reliable game of fetch. So that's why it takes several weeks to really refine that. I also have what I think is the best video on the internet for teaching your dog how to play fetch. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. By exercising your dog just before they're left alone, you're a lot more likely to put them in a position to feel at ease, to feel satisfied. And fetch is better than a lot of forms of exercise because it involves working with a person. So if you're letting your dog play with other dogs as their main form of exercise, that can be somewhat effective. But for many high energy dogs, that doesn't quite cut it, because my hypothesis is that since we selected for the dogs that were really good at working with people, that many dogs really require that to truly feel at ease and complete, I guess. I hope this video was helpful for all of you out there. If you guys are enjoying these types of videos, just let me know by leaving a comment or something, or giving a like. If you're interested in joining our Patreon community, we would love to have you. All right, see you guys later. Bye.